Carl Maria Friedrich Ernst von Weber, 18 or November 19, 1786, June 5, 1826, was a German composer, conductor, pianist, guitarist and critic, one of the first significant composers of the Romantic school. Weber's operas Der Freischütz, Euryanthe and Oberon greatly influenced the development of the Romantische Oper, Romantic opera, in Germany. Der Freischütz came to be regarded as the first German nationalist opera. Euryanthe developed the Leitmotif technique to an unprecedented degree, while Oberon may have influenced Mendelssohn's music for A Midsummer Night's Dream and, at the same time, revealed Weber's lifelong interest in the music of non-Western cultures. This interest was first manifested in Weber's incidental music for Schiller's translation of Gozzi's Turandot, for which he used a Chinese melody, making him the first Western composer to use an Asian tune that was not of the pseudo-Turkish kind popularized by Mozart and others. A brilliant pianist himself, Weber composed 4 sonatas, 2 concertos and the Concertstück in F minor, concert piece, which influenced composers such as Chopin, Liszt and Mendelssohn. The Concertstück provided a new model for the one-movement concerto in several contrasting sections, such as Liszt's, who often played the work, and was acknowledged by Stravinsky as the model for his capriccio for piano and orchestra. Weber's shorter piano pieces, such as The Invitation to the Dance, were later orchestrated by Berlioz, while his polka Brilliant was later set for piano and orchestra by Liszt. Weber's compositions for woodwind instruments occupy an important place in the musical repertoire. His compositions for the clarinet, which include 2 concertos, a concertino, a quintet, a duo concertante, and variations on a theme, posthumously, are regularly performed today. His concertino for horn and orchestra requires the performer to simultaneously produce 2 notes by humming while playing, a technique known as multiphonics. His bassoon concerto and the Andante Euryanthe Ungherese, a reworking of a piece originally for viola and orchestra, are also popular with bassoonists. Weber's contribution to vocal and choral music is also significant. His body of Catholic religious music was highly popular in 19th century Germany, and he composed one of the earliest song cycles, Die Temperamente beim Verlust der Geliebten, 4, Temperaments on the Loss of a Lover. Weber was also notable as one of the first conductors to conduct without a piano or violin. Weber's orchestration has also been highly praised and emulated by later generations of composers. Berlioz referred to him several times in his treatise on instrumentation, while Debussy remarked that the sound of the Weber orchestra was obtained through the scrutiny of the soul of each instrument. His operas influenced the work of later opera composers, especially in Germany, such as Marschner, Meyerbeer and Wagner, as well as several nationalist 19th century composers such as Glinka. Homage has been paid to Weber by 20th century composers such as Debussy, Stravinsky, Mahler, who completed Weber's unfinished comic opera Die Drei Pintos and made revisions of Euryanthe and Oberon, and Hindemith, composer of the popular symphonic metamorphosis of themes by Carl Maria von Weber. Weber also wrote music journalism and was interested in folksong, and learned lithography to engrave his own works. Childhood. Weber was born in Uden, Holstein, the eldest of the 3 children of Franz Anton von Weber, and his second wife, Genevieve Weber, a Viennese singer. The von was an affectation. Franz Anton von Weber was not actually an aristocrat. Both his parents were Catholic and originally came from the far south of Germany. Franz Anton began his career as a military officer in the service of the Duchy of Holstein, and after being fired, went on to hold a number of musical directorships. In 1787 Franz Anton went on to Hamburg where he founded a theatrical company. Franz Anton's half-brother, Friedrich, married Cassilia Stamm and had 4 musical daughters, Josepha, Aloysia, Constance and Sophie, all of whom became notable singers. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart attempted to woo Aloysia, composing several pieces for her. But after she rejected his advances, Mozart went on to marry Constance. A gifted violinist, Franz Anton had ambitions of turning Karl into a child prodigy like Franz's nephew by marriage, Mozart. Karl was born with a congenital hip disease and did not begin to walk until he was 4. But by then, he was already a capable singer and pianist. Education: Weber's father gave him a comprehensive education, which was however interrupted by the family's constant moves. In 1796, Weber continued his musical education in Hildburghausen, where he was instructed by the oboist Johann Peter Huskel. On March 13, 1798, Weber's mother died of tuberculosis. That same year, Weber went to Salzburg to study with Michael Haydn, the younger brother of Joseph Haydn, who agreed to teach Karl free of charge. Later that year, Weber traveled to Munich to study with the singer Johann Evangelist Wallershauser and organist Johann Nepomuk Kauker. 1798 also saw the 12-year-old Weber's first published work, 6 Fuguettes for piano, published in Leipzig. Other compositions of that period, among them a mass, and his first opera, Die Macht der Liebe und des Weins, The Power of Love and Wine, are lost, but a set of variations for the pianoforte was later lithographed by Weber himself, under the guidance of Alois Senefelder, the inventor of the process. In 1800, the family moved to Freiburg in Saxony, where Weber, then 14 years old, wrote an opera called Das Stummwaldmädchen, The Silent Forest Maiden, which was produced at the Freiburg Theatre. It was later performed in Vienna, Prague, and St. Petersburg. The young Weber also began to publish articles as a music critic, for example in the Leipziger Neue Zeitung in 1801. In 1801, the family returned to Salzburg, where Weber resumed his studies with Michael Haydn. He later continued studying in Vienna with Georg Joseph Vogler, known as Abbe Vogler, founder of 3 important music schools, in Mannheim, Stockholm, and Darmstadt. Another famous pupil of Vogler was Giacomo Meyerbeer, who became a close friend of Weber. Early career 1803 to 1810. In 1803, Weber's opera, Peter Schmal und seine Nachbarn, Peter Schmal and His Neighbors, was produced in Augsburg, and gave Weber his first success as a popular composer. Vogler, impressed by his pupil's talent, recommended him to the post of director at the Breslau Opera in 1806. Weber sought to reform the opera by pensioning off older singers, expanding the orchestra, and tackling a more challenging repertoire. His attempts at reform were met with strong resistance from the musicians and the Breslau public. He left his post in Breslau in a fit of frustration, and from 1807 to 1810, Weber served as private secretary to Duke Ludwig, brother of King Friedrich I of Württemberg. Weber's time in Württemberg was plagued with troubles. He fell deeply into debt and had an ill-fated affair with Margarete Lang, a singer at the opera. Furthermore, Weber's father Franz Anton misappropriated a vast quantity of Duke Ludwig's money. Franz Anton and Karl were charged with embezzlement and arrested on February 9, 1810. Karl was in the middle of a rehearsal for his opera Silvano when he was arrested and thrown in prison by order of the king. Though no one doubted Karl's innocence, King Friedrich I had grown tired of the composer's pranks. After a summary trial, Karl and his father were banished from Württemberg. Nevertheless, Karl remained prolific as a composer during this period, writing a quantity of religious music, mainly for the Catholic Mass. This however earned him the hostility of reformers working for the re-establishment of traditional chant in liturgy. Later career 1810 to 1826. In 1810, Weber visited several cities throughout Germany. From 1813 to 1816 he was director of the opera in Prague. From 1816 to 1817 he worked in Berlin, and from 1817 onwards he was director of the prestigious opera in Dresden, working hard to establish a German opera, in reaction to the Italian opera which had dominated the European music scene since the 18th century. On November 4, 1817, he married Caroline Brandt, a singer who created the title role of Silvana. In 1819, he wrote perhaps his most famous piano piece, Invitation to the Dance. The successful premiere of Der Freischütz on June 18, 1821 in Berlin led to performances all over Europe. On the very morning of the premiere, Weber finished his Concertstück in F minor for piano and orchestra, and he premiered it a week later. In 1823, Weber composed the opera Euryanthe to a mediocre libretto, but containing much rich music, the overture of which in particular anticipates Richard Wagner. In 1824, Weber received an invitation from the Royal Opera, London, to compose and produce Oberon, based on Christoph Martin Wieland's poem of the same name. Weber accepted the invitation, and in 1826 he traveled to England, to finish the work and conduct the premiere on 12 April. Weber was already suffering from tuberculosis when he visited London. He died of the disease whilst at the house of Sir George Smart during the night of 4/June 5, 1826. Weber was 39 years old. He was initially buried in London, but 18 years later his remains were transferred to the family burial plot in the Old Catholic Cemetery, Altenkatholischen Friedhof, in West Dresden. The simple gravestone was designed by Gottfried Semper and lies against the northern boundary wall. The eulogy at the reburial was performed by Richard Wagner. His unfinished opera Die Drei Pindos, The Three Pindos, was originally given by Weber's widow to Giacomo Meyerbeer for completion. It was eventually completed by Gustav Mahler, who conducted the first performance in this form in Leipzig on January 20, 1888.